500 rejections. Not 50, not 100. 500 separate times being told your dream isn't good enough. Now imagine turning that into 1.5 million books sold in 3 years. What if the skills you use in your day job are exactly what you need to become a best-selling author? What if the career you think is holding you back is actually the secret weapon no one else has? Picture a defense attorney who builds cases for a living, who reads people, who finds the holes in every story. Now, picture her using those exact skills to write thrillers so twisted that readers call in sick to work just to finish them in one sitting. This is Jeneva Rose, and her story has more plot twists than the book she writes. A tiny British publisher, no marketing budget. The book sits quietly for 2 years. Then one TikTok video gets 4.5 million views. 4 days later, 11,000 copies sold. Suddenly, she's on every bestseller list that exists. Big 5 publishers who rejected her book are now begging her to sign. She tells them no. How does someone go from 500 rejections to becoming untouchable? And what does her story reveal about who really decides what becomes a bestseller? Buckle up. This gets dark before it gets good. What drives someone to keep going after being rejected 500 times? Is it delusion, stubbornness, or do they know something everyone else doesn't? Jeneva Rose wanted to write from an early age. Her first attempt at a novel started in 2009, but she was impatient, maybe a bit unfocused. The idea of writing a full novel was daunting. She could never get beyond page 80. The manuscript would just stop. This happened over and over. Then her mother died. Grief does something to people. Sometimes it destroys them. Sometimes it forces them to create. Jeneva wrote a novel called The Girl I Was to process losing her mother. And for the first time in her life, she finished it. She sent it to literary agents. 80 rejection letters came back. She shelved the book. In November 2017, she signs up for NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, 50,000 words in 30 days. But this time, she writes something different, something dark, a psychological thriller about betrayal, murder, and impossible choices. She finishes it in January 2018, edits it in February. The manuscript is called The Perfect Marriage. Here's the premise. Your husband is accused of murdering his mistress. You're a defense attorney, the best in the business. Do you defend the man who cheated on you? She starts querying agents in April 2018, over 100 rejections. But then, multiple agents want to sign her. She chooses one. Finally, validation. She thinks she's made it. For 18 months, her agent submits The Perfect Marriage to publishers. Every major house, every mid-size press. The manuscript goes out twice. Everyone says no. This will not stand out in the market. No one wants to read a legal thriller unless it's written by John Grisham. During those 18 months, Jeneva does 2 complete rewrites, and she writes 2 more novels while working full-time as a lawyer, writing at night on weekends. Still nothing. In 2019, she attends Thriller Fest and something clicks. She realizes she's been waiting for other people to make her career happen. She fires her agent. Then she shops out those 2 other novels. Another 200+ rejections flood in. We're past 500 rejections now, over multiple books, across nearly a decade. She researches small, independent publishers that accept manuscripts without agents. She finds Bloodhound Books, a tiny British press. She sends them The Perfect Marriage. 2 days later, they offer her a deal. After years of rejection, someone finally says yes. But here's the catch. Bloodhound Books has almost no marketing budget. If this book is going to find readers, Jeneva has to do it herself. Most authors would see that as a death sentence. Jeneva has 10 years of experience in social media and digital marketing. She sees a weapon. In July 2020, The Perfect Marriage is published, and then nothing happens. For almost 2 years, the book just sits there. 2 years of silence after a decade of rejection. How much failure can one person take before they break? Or is there a point where all that rejection becomes fuel for something explosive? Your husband comes home covered in blood. The police arrest him for murder. The victim is his mistress, a woman you didn't even know existed. You're a defense attorney, one of the best. You've never lost a case. Do you defend him? That's the perfect marriage. Sarah Morgan is powerful, brilliant at the top of her profession. Her husband Adam is a failed writer who resents her success. When his mistress is found stabbed to death at their lake house, Sarah has to choose. Save the man who betrayed her, or let him die for a murder she's not sure he committed. It's 2022, almost 2 years after publication. The book is barely making waves. But Geneva's been building a following on BookTok. Then she creates one video that changes everything. She starts telling a story. She's talking directly to the camera about this woman, herself it seems, whose husband has been accused of murdering his mistress. The betrayal, the impossible choice. People watching think it's real. They're commenting, invested, desperate to know what happens next. Then at the end, she holds up a book. This is actually the plot of my novel. The video goes nuclear, 4.5 million views. Some viewers see a later video of Jeneva with her husband Drew and comment, wait, did they let him out on bail? They literally think her husband is in prison for murder. 4 days later, over 11,000 copies have sold. The book that sat quietly for 2 years suddenly explodes. Amazon charts, Publishers Weekly, Barnes and Noble, USA Today, The New York Times, every bestseller list that exists. Colleen Hoover, who sells millions of books herself, calls Jeneva the queen of twists. USA Today bestselling author Samantha Downing, a twisty, compulsive book that will keep you reading all night. New York Times bestseller J.T. Ellison, I couldn't put it down. Twists galore. Readers are finishing it in one sitting. One writes, my family had to fend for themselves for dinner because I literally could not stop reading. Within a year, The Perfect Marriage sells over 1 million copies. The same book that couldn't find a publisher is now a 1 million copy bestseller. What does that tell you about who really knows what readers want? Here's the question. Why do some thrillers become unputdownable while others don't? Jeneva Rose figured it out, and it has everything to do with thinking like a lawyer. Every book starts with a premise that's actually a trap. Not just what if, but what would you do? What if you had to defend your cheating husband? What if you couldn't leave that Airbnb? What if everyone in your hometown has been lying to you? Once you're asking yourself what you would do, you're hooked. Then comes the legal training. Jeneva plots like she's building a case. She knows the ending before she writes the beginning. That lets her plant clues throughout. Evidence readers won't notice until the reveal. The best plot twists are the ones where readers go back and realize all the clues were there. They just didn't see them. That's the art of misdirection. Every chapter ends on a hook, a revelation, a question, a cliffhanger. That's why people are reading at 3 a.m. Her characters are morally gray. You're never sure who's the villain. Everyone has secrets. Everyone's capable of darkness. And the pacing never stops. No filler. Every scene matters. But here's what actually separated Jeneva. She understood that you don't wait for publishers to find your readers. You go directly to them. BookTok wasn't just marketing. It was how she built a community. She engages constantly. She shares behind-the-scenes content, recommends other thriller writers. Readers aren't just buying a book. They're joining a community. Her fans create fan art, post reaction videos. It's organic engagement that money can't buy. Between 2020 and 2023, she sold more than 1.5 million books and built a following of over 850,000 people. When Big Five publishers came with exclusive contracts, she said no. She works with multiple publishers. She controls her career. The industry that rejected her now plays by her rules. So who is Jeneva Rose when she's not writing about murder and betrayal? She lives in Wisconsin with her husband Drew, who you might recognize from TikTok. He's become a co-star in her content, particularly videos where they hilariously roast 50 Shades of Grey together. And then there are Winston and Phyllis, her two stubborn English bulldogs. She's admitted Winston contributes nothing except background noise, snores, flatulence, and grunts when he needs his belly scratched. Jeneva became a mother in July 2025, and in a beautiful full-circle moment, she also released The Girl I Was. That same month, the very first novel she ever wrote, the one she wrote to process losing her mother when she was just 18. The Barnes & Noble edition includes a poem her mother wrote when she was pregnant with Jeneva. Her mother dreamed of being published, but never got the chance. Now that poem will finally see print. "It's like her being published for the first time," Jeneva said. Jeneva doesn't stop writing hits. The Perfect Divorce, the sequel to her breakout hit, released in April 2025. It follows Sarah Morgan 11 years later, facing a new murder investigation while divorcing her second husband. Her other titles, Home is Where the Bodies Are. Three siblings discover a VHS tape showing their father covered in blood next to a dead body. You Shouldn't Have Come Here. A woman realizes she's trapped at a remote Airbnb. One of Us is Dead, which was an Amazon editor's pick, all translated into more than 30 languages. And that film adaptation? The Perfect Marriage is being made into a movie. The screenplay is by Oscar-nominated William Broyles, who wrote Cast Away, Apollo 13, and Unfaithful. The book every major publisher rejected is being made by Academy Award winners. But here's what makes this story powerful. It's about what it reveals about the entire system. The publishing industry looked at The Perfect Marriage and said it wouldn't work. They're supposed to know what readers want. They were all wrong. The same book sold over 1 million copies and launched one of the biggest BookTok success stories in recent memory. What does that mean? The gatekeepers don't have a crystal ball. They're looking backward, not forward. Sometimes what readers want hasn't been published yet. Your background isn't wasted time, it's your edge. Geneva's legal career wasn't a detour, it was the foundation. Rejection doesn't equal failure. 500 rejections for a 1 million copy bestseller. The math doesn't lie. And the old model isn't the only model anymore. Jeneva didn't need a major publisher's marketing budget. She had a direct connection with readers. She's living proof that you don't need permission from the gatekeepers anymore. The system isn't broken. It's just not the only system anymore. 500 rejections, one viral video, 1.5 million books sold. The defense attorney became the queen of twists, not by waiting for permission, but by refusing to let anyone else write the ending to her story. And somewhere right now, there's another aspiring author staring at rejection number 499. They're wondering if they should quit. This story? It's for them. Because Jeneva Rose proved that the gatekeepers don't get the final word. Readers do. The publishers who rejected her were wrong. The agents who passed were wrong. And here's the beautiful irony. The book that supposedly wouldn't stand out in the market became one of the most viral, most talked about debut thrillers in recent memory. The story itself reads like a thriller, except this one's real. Want more stories like this? We break down how authors went from rejection to bestseller lists every week. Next up, Freida McFadden, a brain injury doctor who somehow releases multiple best-selling psychological thrillers a year while still working in medicine. How does she do it? Subscribe to find out. Hit that like button if this story got you, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.